Hey, let's just say it for what it is. Disconnection of any sorts in a relationship fucking sucks. We are pair bonding creatures by nature, and to experience that disconnect is painful and hurtful and can set up trauma, and it can disrupt that natural blueprint of relating to others. Guys, welcome. This is Dr. Nicholas Neaves here with the Relationship Blueprint once again, where we navigate love and I give a guide to the complexities of modern relationships using practical strategies, compassionate insights, and using the years of my therapeutic experience and expertise. So let's jump in with today's topic in and around how a securely attached person will relate to somebody who would be on that narcissistic spectrum and showing narcissistic tendencies. So let's jump in, guys. It's a complex and often misunderstood dynamic, this, of how to navigate a relationship with someone who displays these narcissistic tendencies. And before we go further, let's just clarify what narcissism is about and the spectrum on which it lies. And we need to understand that while some individuals meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, many simply just have narcissistic traits that influence their relationships. So they would be considered, therefore, on a spectrum, meaning they have various combinations of these traits and not one more than the other necessarily. If you are a secure partner navigating this dynamic, there's a delicate balance you have to walk between showing understanding but at the same time protecting your own emotional well-being. And this is what secure people do well in any type of relationship. They have that ability to be able to self-reflect, know that they have a full cup, that they come into relationships to give, and they are there to make sure that their efforts are reciprocated in a relationship. And they would also know how to escalate boundaries once this does not happen. They're not extremists where they're either in or out, and they dialogue, converse, communicate to the point where they try and find a mutually satisfying result for both people to get their needs met. So let's first understand some of these traits that a narcissist would express. They would have an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and difficulty emphasizing other people's achievements. They want to amplify their own. So they therefore struggle with empathy and to put themselves in other people's shoes. And so these traits often mask an underlying insecurity or fear of being vulnerable. So in relationships, narcissistic partners might demand constant praise or validation. They struggle to take responsibility for their actions. They become defensive or dismissive when their flaws are pointed out. A securely attached person has an ability with their emotions to handle this dynamic without losing themselves, and that's the key. They know that they are okay despite the other person not being okay, and they know what not being okay looks like. They get a good strong sense of when that other person loses their core sense and goes into behaviors of manipulation, etc., to get their needs met. The secure person has that spidey sense, you could say, of picking up when that dynamic starts to happen, and they just know something is off and this is not authentic relating. And so the alarm bells go off and they take note. So it does require for that secure person to have that ability to not lose themselves. And so it helps clarify their intention in relationships and to then look at what sort of boundaries to implement. So let's bring this to life with some examples. That first example of the narcissist needing constant praise. So imagine if the narcissistic partner says, "You don't appreciate me enough. Do you even realize how much I do for you?" An insecure partner might over-apologize or walk on eggshells to avoid the conflict with this person, perhaps submitting and overcompensating to try and get back into favor with that person. Do you notice that you do that? Do you have that sort of codependent nature? But a secure partner, however, will remain calm and balanced. They could possibly say something like, "I do appreciate what you bring to our relationship, and I also think it's important that we both feel valued. Let's talk about how we can meet each other's needs." This response acknowledges both the partner's feelings, but without sacrificing their own self-respect. Now, we know with narcissistic people, a response like that will not be what they want, and so they may escalate their complaints and victimhood. But the key there again is that the secure person notices that, does not get caught up in that dynamic and stands ground, and may just repeat the exact same sentence. What happens then is that the secure person gets to see the exposed behavior of the other person, and so the secure person then can make decisions based on that, with that wonderfully clear communication. Let's give another example. When the narcissist deflects responsibility, maybe they make a hurtful comment, and when you bring it up, they respond with, "Hey, you're just too sensitive. Stop overreacting. Are you crazy? You've blown this out of proportion." Right? Something along those lines. So instead of reacting emotionally, and that's the key, the secure person doesn't react emotionally. They take a step back, they take a breath, and they respond calmly, assertively. "I understand you might not see it this way, but that comment hurt me. I'd like us to work on how we can communicate so we can avoid misunderstandings like this. I don't like being hurt, as I'm sure you don't either." Again, that's very clear. It holds the partner to be accountable, while also avoiding possibly more unnecessary conflict. But again, the narcissist may escalate that to further conflict type of statements. The secure person then would ultimately put in a boundary saying, "This conversation has escalated to a point where we now are really hurting each other and being abusive. I'm going to step out of this so that I can regulate myself back to a calmer place when I can then communicate with you. I think we both need to do that right now, so I'm going to step out." The narcissist will probably say, "Oh, there she goes again. You always just run away whenever the argument is hot and heated." And again, the secure person will just say, "No, that's not true. I'll be back in half an hour and we can continue this conversation." Guys, it's difficult to maintain that level of calmness, but that's why, again, I'm giving these blueprints here so that you can listen to these on repeat to understand how to do it. You see, one of the key ingredients that the secure person has is emotional independence. A secure person doesn't rely on their partner's validation to feel worthy. That is the key. This independence is crucial when dealing with narcissistic traits, as it prevents the secure partner from being drawn into cycles of manipulation or emotional dependency. For instance, if a narcissistic partner withholds affection as a form of control, a secure person recognizes the behavior for what it is, and instead of chasing approval, they might say, "I've noticed you've been distant. I'm here to talk when you're ready, but I won't tolerate being ignored," as a way to handle conflict. Can you see how this response sets a clear boundary without escalating the situation? The secure person also communicates in a way that protects connection and self-respect. They stay calm and centered because the narcissistic partner may use defensiveness or criticism to avoid vulnerability. A secure person here is going to stay grounded, focusing on solutions rather than blaming. For example, if they lash out during an argument, a secure response is going to be, "I can see you're upset. Let's take a break and come back to this when we both talk calmly." That's just showing you again the statement to use to create the boundary and step out of the heated emotional situation and prevent things from spiraling out of control. What secure people do very well next is also not to take things personally, but they focus on behavior. So instead of saying, "You're so selfish," a secure partner might say something like, "When you dismiss my feelings, it makes me feel unheard. I'd like us to work on listening to each other more." They call out the behavior. They don't generalize it and make the person the fault, but the behavior. So when you've dismissed my feelings, the dismissing of my feelings is the bad part here. That's the behavior I don't like. We need to change that. Okay? It keeps the conversation productive and less likely to trigger defensiveness. But again, with a narcissistic person, it could well do. Secure people balance empathy with boundaries. So it's natural to feel compassion for a partner with narcissistic tendencies, guys. We know that the empaths are often drawn into these dynamics, especially if those behaviors stem from deep-seated insecurities, right, and trauma. However, secure partners know the difference between empathy and enabling. That's the key word. For example, if your partner constantly dismisses your needs, you might say, "Hey, I care about you, but this relationship needs to be a two-way street. I'm here to support you, but I also need you to respect my feelings and needs." This is going to communicate care while standing firm in your boundaries. But when the dynamic becomes unsustainable, which unfortunately it does very often, the secure person, even though they can navigate challenging relationships, they will also know when to walk away. If the narcissistic partner's behavior becomes abusive, toxic, or consistently invalidating, the secure person prioritizes their well-being. Guys, and this is the blueprint, and I know many of us struggle with that because many of us are not secure in relationships. So this is not a blame or pointing fingers at you for not doing this. Again, it's here to help you with what would be the right approach to do. What is secure relating? So for instance, when you're secure, you might say something like, "I've tried to communicate my needs and work through our challenges, but I feel this relationship isn't healthy for me anymore. I wish you well, but I need to move forward in a way that's best for me." Okay, that decision, you can see, comes from a place of self-respect, not anger or resentment. So guys, in closing, relationships with narcissistic partners can be incredibly complex. If you practice being more secure, your steadiness and emotional independence can bring moments of growth and connection. However, it's essential to get to safety and to recognize when the relationship is no longer serving your well-being. In further episodes, we'll discuss self-abandonment and what happens often when we put others' needs above our own. But remember, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, empathy, and accountability. If those foundations are missing, it's okay to seek a connection that aligns with your values and needs. So much more to say. Look forward to our next episodes on these topics, on secure relating. So thank you for listening and watching, and if this resonates with you or raises any questions, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights into this secure relating and any other relationship type of topics. Thank you for being here, and goodbye.